So welcome to today's session. Thanks so much for joining us and giving us your time. Today we're covering social proof, how to leverage testimonials and case studies for your accounting firm. So in the next 45 minutes, we're going to cover everything from basically using social proof to enhance client trust, attract new clients, and importantly, solidify your firm's reputation in the market. So welcome, my name is Charles Clark. I'm really thrilled to be joined by my old sparring partner, Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hello everyone. Hey, Charles. Great to be here.
Fantastic. Now, the reason that Tom is joining me today is that obviously he is the owner and director of Boma, Better Marketing Results, and so he and I have had many conversations over the last few years that we've worked together about social proof, and so we thought it would be a great webinar and topic for us to do together. So I suppose the first question is, what is social proof? And I think at its core, social proof is really the evidence that others trust your services. Now, this could be a glowing review, a successful case study, or even a client logo on your website. These are all different types of social proof. Now, the purpose, the reason for social proof is that it helps you build credibility. And it's through sharing, through shared experiences and really demonstrating the value of the services that you have delivered to others. So as I said, it comes in various forms. Think testimonials, case studies, online reviews, and we'll cover all of those today. Tom, anything to add at this point? I know that I think this is from one of your clients, this review.
It is. Yeah, and I'll just sort of jump in with a couple of examples for this slide and the others as well. Is, the most powerful reviews that you can receive are ones that people have more of a feeling are not handpicked or are fake, in a sense, because in the sea of information that we have out there, where everybody's getting more notifications every day than they were yesterday, there's more of that going on than there ever has been before. And so when you look at different platforms that Charles mentioned that you can get reviews on, probably the best that you can do, which is the hardest, is getting video reviews with your clients. If you're out talking to them on video with them, getting a review, because that's not fake. That's the client being happy to go on camera and basically pass an open referral to anyone that they know, that to say you should work with this person. It means they're putting themselves on the line in the most honest way for you. And people really resonate with that, as you would if you were looking for a new service provider and you saw that. And then it sort of goes down to, towards sort of getting Google reviews, which is Google's pretty good at removing fake reviews, and people know that you can't just remove Google reviews too, so it becomes really valuable, and people trust those as well, as I'm sure we all do when we're looking for a coffee spot in a new town or anything like that. People are getting more used to using it, and especially actually for professional service providers as well. It's extending out that far. And at the very bottom, you sort of have the written testimonial with the fake stock image of the person smiling on your website saying, I've worked with this person and they're fantastic. And it's like, that's definitely not that person, unless they went and got a model shot done for this testimonial. And so there's a big scale that you can appear on with all these examples. But this right here is using Google reviews on a client's website and live linking those through so that the freshest and newest Google reviews pop up first, giving really good social proof and trust to all the website visitors. It's probably the most important conversion tactic you can use on your website in the last 5 years or so.
And as we said, it is really critical for accounting firms because really, when you are dealing with a professional service, whether it's your accountant or I suppose a doctor or a lawyer, trust is key. It really is everything. And so potential clients really need to feel confident that you are going to be able to deliver the results that you have on your website or that you sort of talk about when you have maybe a meeting to discuss the potential to work together. So in some ways, social proof is around providing a reassurance, and it's kind of like having a friend vouch for your expertise. And goodness knows we've all, gone to a new city and a friend's been there, or you sort of say on Facebook, has anyone been to the city? Where should I go and eat, or where should I go out to? What should I go and see? And your friends will come in and they'll sort of recommend lots of different things. And I would definitely, and I'm sure lots of people would find that those personal reviews from people who know you, who understand you, know what you're sort of, what things you're looking for, would be taken at a high level of validation than maybe just sort of reading something in an online website or magazine or reviews.
Quickly, Charles, too, I'd say something that really, you mentioned people like going to a new town and sort of, looking for recommendation there. That's a classic example. And something to note that I see with a lot of my clients is when they have great Google reviews, they actually get a lot of businesses that are expanding from out of town or out of the country, and they're opening an operations in that particular city or that area, and they need a local accountant to help them. How could they possibly find one? It would be very difficult to get a referral from within their network for an accountant in the town that you're in necessarily. So a lot of them jump online and look at those reviews. And we've seen a lot of good clients come out of that actually, because they're good paying, they're good businesses, and they're straightforward in what they want, and you can help them. So it's a classic example that you mentioned, Charles.
Yeah, no, look, and that's a great point. And sort of to second that, I think, we know that even if people are, referred by word of mouth, they will go online and have a look. And, two places that they'll look, one will be is your website, and obviously they'll look, when they search you online. And so those Google reviews are sort of really key. And I think, having that strong presence through your sort of reviews or social proof can actually help set you apart from your competitors. And I think Tom gave the example of a coffee shop, and we've all been in the situation where we see two coffee shops and one's got 50, good reviews, and the other's sort of got 5 good reviews. We're always going to choose the one that's got more. It's sort of maybe it's sort of a part of our human psyche is that, more good reviews is always better.
Do you ever feel
it does help.
Do you ever feel guilty then when your friends recommended you one coffee store and you go look at it and you're like, ooh, it's got a 3-star rating, the one next to it's got 5 and a lot more reviews, and you're like, I'm just not going to take my friend's recommendation. I'm going to go to the more reliable choice. And it's interesting.
I think that's when you just thank them and don't tell them where you went.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. And people are getting multiple recommendations for professional services for accountants these days. It's be abnormal just to get one if you're making that big of a move. So that's also something that does weigh in when people are evaluating. I know it sounds like, the coffee shop's a classic example, but it really is also applicable to when people are moving their business through accountants as well, as they get so many recommendations.
It is because, really, if you are moving your business or you're, looking for, you started up a new business and you're looking to get an accountant, social proof really helps provide, create that confidence, gives you credibility, and it really can help you establish that connection. So absolutely critical, factor in terms of your overall, your presence online, what you do in terms of your marketing, and how you sort of reach out to prospective clients. So in terms of the different types that we mentioned, sort of testimonials, case studies, etc., and video, in terms of testimonials, and this is probably one of the simplest forms of social proof, and as Tom said, because it's kind of so simple, at the same time, on the sort of the hierarchy, yes, the video one is fantastic, but equally that requires quite a lot of sort of input and work, whereas a sort of a testimonial review, which could be on like Google, or it could they might put it on G2 or some of those other review sites. It doesn't take a lot of input from the client. They can do it in maybe 5 minutes, and it still is really effective. And ideally, what you're having them do is to speak about their experience directly with their firm. So you're not giving them necessarily a script or anything like that. But if you know that they've had a good experience with you, you can obviously reach out and ask for them. And here the key thing is, what is going to make this testimonial impactful? So ask that client to share a specific outcome along the lines of, I helped you save money on your taxes, or I helped you streamline your finances. Sort of remind them about the good experience they had and what you helped them with, and that can really sort of help them have an easier experience of knowing what to write, because sometimes they might be uncertain. Giving a little bit of direction and reminders is helpful.
Yeah, and an interesting thing to note about that and giving people prompts for what to say is really valuable, because it's like there's a book called Endless Referrals by Bob Berg. I'm not sure if anyone's read that, but it's just all about how to go out and gather referrals for your business. And when asking to for a referral, it's the same as when asking for a review. If you're going to ask a client to do that, the key is if you go and it's sort of like asking someone to tell you a joke. If you go and ask someone to tell you a joke, it's like, well, it's too broad of a question. Like it's like asking, can you refer me to anyone you know? They're like, oh geez, who's everybody that I know? That's going to be a hard one. But if you get more specific, like to asking, someone to tell you a joke and say, tell me a knock joke, people can generally think of one. And so, a good sort of strategy when asking for reviews is not to just be open-ended, would you write me a review? It's, what did you like working with me in particular? We did X, Y, and Z. Was that helpful? And how about communication? Would you mind putting that into a review? They've already thought of the review. They know what they're going to write because you've prompted them through it. And they're going to have a much easier time putting that onto paper. So that's just going to increase that conversion rate of getting those reviews through the door, which is a really big pain point for a lot of people, is how do I ask, and people never leave them. So it's just sort of one of the tips that you can do there too.
Yeah, and I think off the back of that, timing is obviously always critical. So asking someone to do it, obviously after you've finished a project, we've just sort of had a really successful result, would be obvious time. Equally, doing it 6 months later, they'll be like, oh God, it's hard to remember what we were doing, and sort of all those feelings and sort of experiences that they had, which would be fresh if you ask them in the sort of the week or 10 days after you've delivered a great service to them. They have to sort of think back. It just becomes much more difficult, and then in that respect, it may even end up being it may sort of sound less authentic when they are sort of trying to remember back all those months. They may just sort of say something relatively vague and innocuous, not wanting to disappoint you, but at the same time not quite remembering what it was. So in terms of different types of testimonials, and as Tom said, you can do video or written. Look, video is fantastic. Some people also prefer speaking to camera rather than writing. They might just feel that that's more natural. I mean, equally, it might be the other way around, where some people are just not comfortable on camera. So think a little bit about who you're asking and where you think they would be most comfortable doing it. Also, video, can be a little bit trickier in terms of recording it. They might need a few goes, or you might need to do a little bit of editing. So again, you'll have a good idea of the person that you're asking, where you think they would be, which medium you think they'd be happy to do. But then also think of your audience. So, do you think that your audience would be more likely to, or happy to read something, or do you think that they would be, they'd be into watching the video? So again, knowing your audience is critical there.
That's right, yeah, and a good option is to leave people kind of all of those options as well if you're not sure. And Charles touched on before is timing. So you kind of want to hit people at every possible opportunity, because it's when you've made a real impact in their life that they're going to feel the need to go out of their way to leave you a positive review. Like, and we do have these impacts in our clients' lives. Like, you might save a client amount of tax that they thought that they owed, or you might be able to do some business planning with them that frees up cash up cash for them. Whereas previously they were thinking, I might have to take my kid out of that school and move into another school, and you've freed up some cash. That means that doesn't actually have to happen. And in that kind of a moment, that kind of genuinely life-changing moment, people are really, really happy to write a very honest review for you if provided the opportunity to do it. And so if you don't provide that opportunity, you're just sort of leaving money on the table. And so a good idea is using tools like Boma to share sort of that content. But in terms of gathering it, there is software like ewom.com.au, which will enable you to gather that at all of those opportunities. So every time you're emailing and your email signature, there's an opportunity to leave a review, and that just means when they find the news, they go, yeah, I'm leaving this, I'm doing this now. You're not going to get sort of huge amounts. I never want to set anyone up with expectations. You're going to get so many reviews. But if you build them up over the years, that's what really matters. And clients know that you've built it up over the years too. Like, trust is something that you have to build up over time, and it's a snowballing effect over time. You just get so much out of that, and platforms like that can help you give the option, hey, do you want to leave a video review? Just film it on your phone. You'll have some clients who are really extroverted that want to do that, others won't, and you can say, hey, you leave one on Google. And some people as well might not even have a Google account, but you can say, look, leave it on this platform here just as feedback for us, and it'll still go through to our website and display for people. So you kind of catch people at every opportunity and give them every option, and you can't really go wrong if you do that. You set yourself up with a proper system to gather that feedback.
And I think that's like so many elements in marketing. Once you have a bit of a plan and a strategy, consistency over time will deliver results rather than doing sort of a frenetic activity kind of a month or two, and then leaving it, for sort of 6 months, and then wondering why you haven't got the sort of the results you want. Consistency, with your marketing, with requests for testimonials and things like that. It's definitely, you've got to play the long game, as Tom said, build it up over time. So case studies, I'm sure you're really familiar with them, but just to recap, they're basically, a more detailed, sort of in-depth version of the sort of successful client success story that you have. Now, there are sort of a couple of, I suppose, tricks here, and that is, to really follow a clear framework. This is, especially important if you're maybe thinking of, maybe having 4 or 5 or 6 case studies. It just makes it easier for you to create them, and also when you're sort of working with the client to sort of gather the information, you're asking for the same thing every time. And so the framework would be, start with, who is the client and what was their problem that you were able to come along and help with, and then explain the solution that you came up with. And then lastly, highlighting those results, whatever they happen to be. So it's a pretty straightforward framework. It's, about the client and their problem, the solution that you provided, and what were the results that benefited them. Now, the nice thing with case studies is that they can be specific, I suppose more specific, in the way that a case testimonial is a little bit more harder to be. So a testimonial is usually like 1 or 2 sentences, whereas a case study, obviously, it's a few pages. And so you can really tailor it to specific industries or services that you offer to really make it, niche down to, maybe you worked with an agricultural business, or maybe it was a manufacturing business, and you can really tailor it to those industries and the relevant services that you were able to offer. The nice thing then is that, when you have them on your website and you're promoting them, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, that will obviously then play into your organic search, so SEO, for those particular industries, those particular services that you're offering.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is to take the time to create that content and put that together. Again, there's that similar scale I talked about before, where the best quality content you can get is going to be you on video talking with a client, and that's a photo of. Just there is talking to a client, talking about them. You'll see the caption there, we're celebrating 30 years in business. It's kind of telling the story, and as we all know, stories are the most powerful thing, right? I mean, people following along, like, this is this business, we were doing X, Y, and Z, but when we spoke to this person, they really changed their lives, they changed this and that. For a potential client reading that or watching that, it's extremely compelling. And someone who's been referred a couple of places, and you've got that, a polished looking website, and great Google reviews, you'll win every single time. And you won't even realize it. You'll just kind of go, oh, I'm getting more referrals recently. And it's not that you're getting more referrals, you're just getting more converted referrals who didn't leave when they saw your website because someone else had something better on theirs. And as Charles said, it also has an impact on your SEO, so putting a case study together, talking about how you help particular clients in sort of maybe with manufacturing of particular different things. Like you might be doing, there might be a niche client that does manufacturing of road signs or materials for road signs. And there could be a couple of businesses like that in Australia. And with one case study, someone could go, hey, I saw your case study, and I don't know anyone that does something that's specific, and you can pick a client up like that. And that might be a case study you wrote years ago, and it's just been sitting there on Google, and eventually someone's been researching, looking for an accountant in the industry, and they've found that, and they've gone, great, and they get in touch. But you can imagine if you have multiple case studies, that starts to really have an impact over your long-term growth of your business. And you're not just putting any foot forward, you're putting your best foot forward, because, and I say this a lot to clients, people really don't care what you say about yourself. Like, who does? Like, you could meet someone and they say, I'm the best, by the way, I do X, Y, and Z, I'm the best. Like, you just think, okay, right. But if someone else is out there, like if you walk into a networking room and someone's going, oh, you need this, like you have to chat to this person. He helped me, he's helped so many people in this room, he's a great accountant, blah, blah, blah. It makes you really want to work with that person. Recommendations matter. What you say about yourself, not so much. So these case studies are a really good way to get out there, and also to convert people when they come through to your website as well. I was going to show that video just there, but I probably won't just for now, because it won't have sound and that sort of thing. But it's just going out onto the premises of the client and then getting them to show you around a little bit with just a hired videographer. and just having a conversation with them. It doesn't have to be too scripted. I want to stress how easy these things can be if you don't overthink them. Literally hire the local videographer, pay them about $1,000 and go out to a client, spend half a day and just talk to them about their business and just get some good footage of that, and wear a microphone while doing it. And the videographer will put together something really, really top quality for you just meeting with a client, doing what you normally do. And you get really good at that after a while. You get less camera shy. So it does happen.
Nice. So I think in terms of how to create impactful ones, so as we said, in terms of that structure, so problem, solution, and the measurable results. An example of this could be, highlight how you helped, a client save $20,000 in taxes, or, you streamline their financial processes. Also make it relevant. So if you're targeting, say, small businesses, whether it's in a specific sector or not, highlight a success story that shows a business similar to the clients that you want to attract. So again, that's pretty key. And then also once you've created these, so you've created this case, so you've invested some time to create the video or the sort of the written version, don't, as good as it is to have it on your website, and that will pay dividends over time, don't just then say, great, my job is done, distribute it. So use it in your blogs, use it in your newsletters, put it out there on LinkedIn and other social channels where you can start to get the word out there. And especially if you spend a bit of time with your, being active on LinkedIn and some of the other networks, and you've got some followers, they might take it up and then share it. They'll be like, oh yes, I do know actually a friend of mine, I'll just forward this to them. And it's such a low key, low touch way of then you getting in front of another business who may then become, a prospect for you. But fantastically, it's done through their own connection. So it's a really fantastic way to do it. On the image you're showing, Tom, is that a placeholder for what the sort of the reviews that you have?
Yeah. So, for example, if you use a system like we have, so for EWOM, right? So, if you're subscribed to that, then not only are your reviews that you gather through that system, which are going to be on any platform, you give people the choice of video, Google, or whatever. It also publishes them to your website, but you can also automatically publish those reviews to your social media. So there's some really great quality content that would be sitting there in that, it says, here will be the text of your review. So, you might have a client that's popped a review through and they've just done it without having a Google account and without wanting to do a video. And suddenly, 2 weeks later, automatically on your social media is their experience being shared. And they might say something like, it's really hard to find an accountant who is an expert in e-commerce, who understands the cash flow requirements of ordering stock, lead times, things like that, and goes beyond just providing us our tax, actually helps us plan for all of these things and tax plan for all of these things. They've saved us so much money. Bang, that's out there. There's plenty of e-commerce owners out on social media, and it just takes someone to go, oh, so-and-so's in that, and they've been looking for an accountant. Like, I'll just share this post over to them, and it's just 1 click or 2 clicks maybe for someone to share that post to the person that they know. So you kind of want to create more freedom and ability for people to be able to share your success stories with other people. And again, it's something that you just keep doing over time, and it has a big effect. We all know that we're busy each day, and habits are hard to follow though. So that's why softwares like this that just do it for you, based off a link in your email signature asking for a review, is going to be something that just pays itself dividends over years and years, because it's like watering your plants. Who remembers to do it every week? Do you know what I mean? It's you need an automated system or reminders, and this can help with that.
Okay, so on to industry endorsements. So these are also really powerful, but in a way they're also kind of a little bit of a hygiene factor. So most accounting firms that I look through their websites, they will have these sorts of things on their site if they can, and these could be things like industry recognition and awards, certifications, things like that. And the point here is to really sort of show that you are recognized by either your peers or sort of industry leaders or sort of industry bodies as an expert in a particular field. And the case that I'm showing you now, so this is a client of Boma's, and they really focus on the sort of the franchise, providing services to franchises. And you can see there they've won that over 6 years. So imagine you're a new franchisee, and you come onto the website, maybe you've been recognized, maybe being referred to them, maybe you've found through SEO. But as you scroll down, you see this, and you're like, oh goodness me, Westpac Franchise Awards, multiple years winner, and backed up by CANZ. So a really fantastic way to just sort of tick those boxes. And again, as authority builds trust. And if you do have any of these lurking around that you haven't yet put on your website and made a bit of a deal about on social media in your newsletters, definitely recommend that you do. And if you have the opportunity to enter these awards, whatever the awards that, whether it's a local award or sort of a national body award, although they can take a little bit of time to sort of entry elements, definitely worth doing if you can.
Just, I think those are one of those 1%ers that really make a difference when people are going through and they're trying to establish the credibility of your firm. And, when we look at one of Xero's surveys they did a few years ago of why do clients switch accounting firms, one of the really top 3 reasons is technology. And so if you're displaying things on your site, like, I'm a Xero Gold partner or Platinum partner or whatever, that can actually have a huge difference, which we'll jump onto in a moment, but also to do with, the associations that you have. People just see, okay, tick, these guys are credible. Credibility is important, definitely, but so is technology, and that's where this comes into it. Client lists or logos, having those displayed. When we talk about things like what do we display on our homepage, it's easy to kind of get carried away in fluff, and this is not fluff. This is something you have to have that's on there, and it's a good subtle form of social proof, as it says there on that slide there.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, as Tom was sort of saying, whether you're MyOb or Xero, whatever sort of platinum, gold, silver, bronze level that you happen to be, and these aren't the only ones in there. You could also have partners that you work with, sort of along the lines of other accounting-based apps. And it can also be, not that we put any up today, but they could also be, client logos. So having sort of a stream of, we work with all of these clients, and so you can imagine if you're a potential client going on and you say, oh gosh, I recognize all of these firms or all these businesses, they work with this accountant. They are obviously, especially if you know those businesses personally, what a fantastic way to signal to that prospective client that you can be trusted and you're already used by lots of organizations which they may know of. Or they actually may personally know. So definitely, as Tom said, a bit of a 1%er, but a really crucial one. If you don't have these, as we sort of talked about, when people go and visit websites to kind of do their due diligence, if you didn't have these, you're going down the list of kind of making yourself be the obvious choice versus someone else who does have them.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you don't have it, people ask. They think to themselves in the back of their mind, why not? Oh, the other site had this, but they didn't have this. They're not going to assume they probably have it too. They won't. They'll assume that you don't actually have it or you would have displayed it. And just then onto this slide here, this is an interesting one because, when someone Googles your firm, what Google's going to show them is your firm and a few others in the area. That's actually what happens. So even if someone's been referred to you, they might actually end up with a view like this, showing a couple of other firms in that local area nearby them or nearby you. And so something that's interesting is even just for your existing clients looking up, it does sow a little bit of doubt if you're that firm on the left with one Google review and it's 5-star, or even worse, if you've just got 2 or 3 Google reviews and your rating is 2.3 stars and you go, oh, that's ridiculous. That's because this client was, blah, 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 years ago. And fair enough, that client probably was ridiculous years ago, but it just doesn't look good now, to have that up there. So if you're getting referred by someone and they see 3 options and one of them looks like, 4.9 stars, 102 Google reviews, one has 19 Google reviews and 5 stars, and one has 1 Google review and 5 stars, or even maybe it's not 5 stars, you just sort of have to ask yourself, what would you do in that situation, even though you've been referred? It's like the coffee shop example. Well, I've been referred to this coffee store, but this one seems to be really well liked, next door. So, at the very least, a lot of clients will chat to the other firm and maybe get a quote as well, and just, while they're in the area. So it's just something to take note of. What's the first thing people see when they look up your business? It's you and a few others. So you've got to make sure that you stand out really strongly.
So we have touched on this a little bit, but again, just to reiterate, now that you've put the work into getting the testimonials, the reviews, the case studies, you really need to leverage them and you need to put them to work. And so a couple of key places that we've already mentioned. So on your website, so, create a dedicated testimonials section on your website, add some quotes to your homepage. As Tom said, you can obviously link in Google reviews directly onto your website as well, or they might be G2. I think, I've definitely seen some accountants and other software providers that have those from sort of other third party, other than Google as well. Social media, I mean, again, whether it's a video or a written run, use those channels that you have that you own out there in the marketplace to promote them. And so you can both have them, whether they're video or written, make the most of those channels. And then in terms of emails, again, there's sort of two ways you can use these. So as Tom said, you can sort of embed them in the footer or sort of in some other element of your emails, and sort of they're always there, always on. A really nice way to do. Or you can actually send out, an email, either it's sort of notifying people of maybe an award that you have, or a case study that might be relevant to a subset of your clients, or maybe it's to your prospects. So again, email will always be really powerful. It's permission based. You have their email address. So as long as you have segmented that database, you'll be able to sort of go in and say, right, I've got a great case study from a manufacturing company. I know that I've got a whole bunch of manufacturers on my database. I'm going to send this to them, with the hopes of basically, generating those conversations to sort of have, business conversations afterwards. And then I think, again, don't forget that you will be having lots of face-to-face, or at least, oh, sorry, I just on my screen. You will be having lots of, if not face-to-face, at least sort of phone-to-phone conversations with people. So don't be shy about mentioning the fact that, hey, we did win an award, or hey, we've just put this case study together. I think it'll be really relevant for you. So lots of different ways, therefore, that you're able to get that message out there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the key to this is like anything with marketing. I'm a really big believer in set things up to scale. Like, start with the end in mind. If you have to be responsible for logging on each week and screenshotting a review and posting it onto your social media, and then maybe you want to put a bit of design around it, and it takes 30 minutes to do, it's just not going to happen long term. Be realistic with ourselves. So set yourself up with tools that just do it for you automatically, so that when you're scrolling on Facebook, when you get home from work, you go, oh, that's so good, we posted that today. How do we do that? Oh, we did it automatically. We must have got a new review. How good. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
And get that out to all your channels, and you can do that as well.
Great. So on your webpage, I mean, look, we have covered most of these in a bit of detail, but it's just an example. But again, having those testimonials, having those reviews, and make it, easy for people to find. So don't bury them sort of fourth page down on one of your services. Have them on your homepage. If you do have, testimonials specific to a service, that's great. You can put those additionally on those service pages. So sort of on those landing pages where you sort of in depth talk about a service, then have an accompanying testimonial that goes along with it and supports the story that you're telling.
Absolutely. And that's just there just to show you an example. That's not for an accounting firm, but that's to show you an example of what it's like if you're to pull in multiple reviews from multiple different places and aggregate them. So you might have reviews on Facebook and you go, yeah, I got 10 reviews on Facebook. I got 6 reviews on Google, and I've got 5 reviews on this other site. That'd be great if I could just combine them. I mean, it doesn't look like much, either of them on their own. You can use that, and that's what a software like E1 does, is aggregate that, so you don't have the sort of 7 reviews plus 10 somewhere else. You've got 17 reviews, and it's automatically showing on your website and posting to your social media as well. It's definitely something worth doing and worth looking at there. I think that's sort of, from that perspective of leveraging that proof, that's really obviously quite critical. But the hard part as well is gathering it. And so I think that's something we're probably all really interested in looking at doing, and without having to ask for it all the time necessarily. But onto social media, I mean, that's really where sort of Boma stands out as well. Like, so, being able to post and keep your social media consistent and alive, but then also mix in some testimonials too. It's just sort of that perfect mix of appealing to your client base online and ultimately creating shareable content. A lot of referrals happen when someone forwards your email, and in the future, and even right now, like they'll forward their email to a potential, to an associate who is asking for a new accountant. Nowadays, it's really happening on social media, and people are forwarding posts, forwarding testimonials to each other. It just gives you momentum as a business.
Fantastic. So in terms of email, and look, we have covered this quite a lot. Just two things I wanted to sort of mention here is that obviously, when you are following up on inquiries or sending out quotes, it can be really nice at the bottom of that sort of that email template for a follow-up or a quote, just to have some of that social proof sitting there, and it could be in the form of a testimonial with a link to just sort of your Google testimonials or sort of on your website, or it could be a sort of a link to a case study relevant to what you're talking about. And so again, you're just building that trust, putting that social proof in front of them, and it may not be the main reason why they eventually decide to go with you, but it definitely can't hurt. And if you sort of think of two firms, one of whom is really leveraging their social proof across email and getting it in front of their prospective clients as many times as they can, versus the other one who may not be doing any of that stuff, you will see the level of confidence and trust build up in the one who is showing all that social proof, because it's just more and more evidence in front of that client or prospective client that this is a high performing outfit.
Yeah, and look, I mean, just to summarize, then I guess from everything we've talked about today, is you might be thinking like, okay, so this is sort of how we can go and gather it. We can use tools to gather it. This is how we can automatically get it to display. But is it worth it to sort of go and do all this sort of stuff? Just from my experience, and I've been sort of helping accounting firms with their marketing, starting out working in an accounting firm as their marketing manager. I've been doing it for sort of over 10 years now. And this, I've got to say, is the easiest thing you can do that has the biggest impact on business. You'd be absolutely surprised. I speak to so many accounting firms that say, we're so happy about, they're proud of their reviews, firstly, because it actually really is something to be proud of. You get a badge that sort of says people love working with us, and honestly, they do. But secondly, you'll have people just walk in and you'll be like, great, so how did you find out about us? And even if they've been referred to you, so many people will say, well, we saw you had great reviews online, even if they've been referred to you as well. Like that, it'll change the reason for getting in contact with you. In their mind, yeah, they were referred, but you had excellent reviews. And it's a really validating thing when that happens. So if you can put a focus on something, if you said, what's my focus going to be for the next 12 months from a marketing perspective, something that's like, one of those, what do they call, like a realistic sort of like realistic, achievable goal is focusing on building up social. That's right, smart, sort of, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timeframes. So if you kind of want a smart goal, like this is one of those from a marketing perspective. Going out and saying, well, I just want to develop X amount of new clients is great, but I'd say that's almost more sales. I think you need to start looking at what assets can I focus on building for marketing over the next year. And the sooner you get started on building up reviews for your business, the easier it's going to be, because we all know that they're not easy to gather. So you don't want to miss any opportunities when they do pop up to grab a good review from your client. And you'll really notice a big difference in how people find you.
Fantastic. So just before we move on to questions, I won't go through this in detail, but again, if you'd like to try out Boma or EWOM, you can get free trials with both. They're both incredibly good value for money when you understand what you're getting with either of them. Now I know we have one question. Tom, are you happy to read it out for us? Thanks.
What do you think about offering rewards for reviews, e.g. a donation to a charity or a voucher? I think it's a fantastic idea, Courtney. So thank you for asking that question. And we have a number of people who do just exactly that. So in a system like EWOM on the screen there, you can say, hey, leave us a review. Person who leaves a review, people who leave a review over the next 6 months go into the draw to win, giving a $500 voucher to a charity of their choice. That you'll notice more reviews. come through if you do that, definitely. The key is you do have to technically offer it to people whether they leave a positive or a negative review. That's just sort of like the guidelines for like Google reviews and that sort of thing. But the beauty is a system like E1, for example, if someone leaves a negative review, a negative feedback through that system, it's going to come to you privately first. And it's going to tell the client, this has been passed on to the owner privately. They can still go and badmouth you online if they want to, but I've never seen someone write a big private negative feedback and then go put something else publicly online. So you're actually really, really well protected by a system like that. And if you're offering a reward, you can publish that on there too. And definitely, just from what I was saying, people get a lot more reviews when they do that. And probably something just on that we didn't talk too much about is, that negative, a lot of people in their mind are going to say, well, what if I get a negative review? I'm scared of that. Isn't that there forever? Well, it kind of adds to the realism of the other reviews on there. And the best strategy is to just get more positive reviews to bury that. But also a system like E1 is going to protect you from negative reviews, because some people would complain that ice cream is too cold at a restaurant and, are impossible to please. Just wanted to just touch on that it's not something you have to worry about if you use the system. And even if it does pop through, it only just makes the others look more realistic on there. So no one's perfect. Everybody understands that. And as long as you respond to your reviews, then it shows customers that if something does go wrong, you're there, you're trying to help. Don't just not respond to negative reviews if they come through. That shows that you don't care. Hopefully that answers your question as well, Courtney. And that was the only one that we had, Charles.
Brilliant. Well, look, we're right on the dot for 45 minutes. So look, thank you so much, everyone, for your time today. Just to reiterate, we will be sending out the recording to you all. So just thank you, Tom, for joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for joining us. Talk to you all later.